and welcome. What I'd like to do today is to show you how to use the VLOOKUP function in Excel to join two sheets together when you have a large data set. What I've done is I've made up a data set here. We have one page which is our master data, and in fact this is every little SLA in Australia versus the population and then some various population breakdown sets. So this master sheet has a total of 1,400, just over nearly 14 to 1,500 lines of data in it. And then on a second sheet, we'll just click on the second sheet here, I have put the equivalent CIFA data codes, which is just the socioeconomics, for each SLA, and this has been got from the Australian Bureau of Statistics data, and I think this one runs for about the same 1,300 or so lines, so we have a similar number here. So what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to get the correct CIFA values and attach them to the right master data list. So the first thing we need to do is prepare our sheet for this. So I'm just going to put some headings across here first so we know what we're looking for. We'll call this, I usually call this Lookup 1, and then the error check, which I'll explain what that means in a minute, always a blank column, and then value 1 and value 2. So the first thing to do is to actually check that these, what you're going to use as the key, this column here, is in the same format as the key you're searching over here. And if you look at these keys, do you notice this one is left justified? And you go over here and this one is left justified. So that means they're in the same format. They're both text format, which is a critical part of the problem. If they weren't, we would need to turn them into the same format. And to do that, the first thing I do is insert a column. If you right-click on the adjacent column, you can just do an insert like this. And there's only two variations. This is obviously in text format because it's left formatted. If you wanted it in numbers format, you would go equals value of that. And you notice now, we'll just put SLA underscore value here so we know it's a number. And you notice that this now is right justified for this one. So let's just take that and we can copy that all the way down to the bottom here. Just go like this, rush down to the bottom. We actually don't have to do this because we actually know that it's already in text format on our lookup page. But for the sake of the argument, there you go, you now have the values here. So theoretically, if this here was a list of numbers, you would then have the numbers that you could use for the lookup. They must be the same. So the index field on the master table and the table you're going to use as the lookup table must be of the same format. So let's do a lookup. So basically all you do for a lookup equals, you're doing a vertical lookup, so you do VLOOKUP, open bracket, and then this tells you what values you need. The first value you need is what you're going to use as the key. So you want it to look up that value, then you type a comma, and you want it to look it up in this entire table. So you now highlight this entire table, running all the way down like this. It's a bit slow, we'll just try and speed it up. Here we go. We're getting there. 900, 1,000. We're getting there. 1,200, 1,300, 1,400. We'll forget the little space at the bottom. There we are. So now if you look at the top, you can actually see what you've got. You've got the key value that it's going to look up, the area it's going to look it up in, and just so you can lock that area so copies work alright, if you press the F4 button, you'll see it puts dollar signs in there, and that locks it. So that's what you need to do to lock it. And then you say you want it to return, and which column in this list do you want it to return? The first column, the second column, through to the fifth column. You want it to return the first column for now. So then you press close brackets and then enter. Alright, now it hasn't worked. It's made an error code here, and we'll have a look and work out why that error code is there. The first thing you always check when you get an error code is to do a lookup. The list that it's looking up needs to be in sequential order, and you notice this list, it's not in sequential order. So you just click in the column and sort it, and that will make it in sequential order. Go back and check in the master now. Ah, perfect. That fixed our problem. Do you notice now it has got a value for this column? 105051100, which actually we know now matches that. Now a little thing that we always do to make sure we get this absolutely correct is we put a second formula in the column adjacent, and we go equals if, open bracket, if that value is not equal to that value, then write the word error, otherwise do nothing. Close bracket, press enter, and you notice because there's no mistake, it doesn't put any code there. So that way we can, in fact I'll just show you what happens. Let's pretend this is a silly code. Let's put an XXX, and you notice now that this has kicked up an error in this column. So we can then tell that there's something crazy going on. So we'll just put that back. Now there's one more edit that I do to this. Do you remember how I said when you pressed F4 it put these dollar symbols in here to lock this? We also want it to lock on the A here. So I'm just going to type a dollar symbol in there like that. And the reason we want to do that is later on we'll want to copy this formula and reuse it, and we don't have to want to re-edit it every time. So if we just lock the column like that. Good. So what we're going to do now is just make sure that all works. We'll just copy that, edit copy, and then we'll just go down here. I'm going to speed this all up, so I'll just rush down here like this to the bottom of this, holding the shift key down, click at the bottom here, and then I just go edit paste, and there we go. It's put all the formulas in. Now I always run my eye down this column looking for, do you notice that? There's some errors. Look at this. And you can now see why we do this error trick, because what the VLOOKUP does is if it doesn't find the exact matching value, it gets the next one down in the column. So if you didn't see these errors, you would just imagine that it's made a direct match and you wouldn't see any mistakes in the system. So there's those two there, or there's a little bundle of them there. Is that erroneous? Well, there's a whole heap in here that are erroneous, and there's some in there. In fact, this is not uncommon when using ABS data, because over time the excuse me, the codes that they use to address it, there are variations in different databases, so I'm not surprised that those errors have come up. But for now, let's work out what we do to get the actual values. So we're going to now copy that particular field, edit, copy, and I'm going to paste it in these two adjacent cells over here, edit, paste. Now let's have a look and be sure. Do you notice the A has remained the A, which is what you wanted? 2, correct, correct. Very good. Now, to actually get the value that we want from our slave table back here, we have to work out what column number it is. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5. So we want columns 4 and 5. Go back to the master, have a look at this one here. So if we put column 4 here, column 4, like that, there we go, we now have the value, and we go to the one adjacent, and we make that column 5, we'll get the adjacent. Now all I do is copy these, paste them below here, gone a bit far there, haven't we? We'll get there in the end. We just go like this until we get to the very bottom of this list. And then we paste them in there. And they're all done. There we go. So now, just to revise what we have used the key value to search down the list on the slave page here. When we have checked that they match up, we have then collected the values for the CIFAR and the CIFAR decile. So there's a couple more little steps we need to do here. The first thing I always do now that I've got this data is to remove all the formulas. So I highlight all of these columns, I go edit copy. We don't need to see that. And then I go edit paste special and I put values. So what this will do is it will remove all the formulas and put the pure numbers now. There we go, all done. So if we click on one of these cells now, we'll see that it's actually the number now and it's not the formula. This is easy now because what that now means is we can sort by this error column like this. We now have all the erroneous ones at the top, and what I immediately do is I go down and delete the values on all the erroneous ones. That way I don't get trapped by using the wrong data. Now, clearly, we'll just resort that by the SLA. If I shrink down this name, we'll be able to get all the columns on nicely, be able to see. Now what you'll see, if we run down here away, there we go, went past some. You see now, wherever there was an error, we have no values. And we'd have to go through and work out what those errors were and fix them up by hand. But you can now see, very simply, using VLOOKUP, we've been able to get all the CIFAR values now attached to population data. So this is a simple way of using VLOOKUP formulas to integrate two sheets into one. Thank you.